It's always interesting how your biggest accomplishments put the best and the worst in you right in the mirror. If you told me before 2020 that I had run the largest marathon in the world and finished, that would have either completely blown my mind or I would have just thought you were crazy. My gym routine at that point had devolved into get a snack wrap from the McDonald's across the street as a treat, RIP to those by the way, shout out to their family, then actually go to the gym and do some bare bones 3-day cycle of push-pull and legs or whatever the thing is at that time. My relationship with fitness is a bit weird like that. Like I show up, that half the battle's been there. Just something about everything else completely destroys all consistency. But 2020 happened, running became a way of getting some fresh air, and it started the foundations for a long list of things that I told myself I was going to do when it stopped being 2020, because it dawned on me. My life in that year wasn't all that different from what it had been previously. I didn't go out much, I didn't try new places, see new things. I had my routine and I stuck with it, despite any opportunity to do something else. It was just the things that I knew I was supposed to do. So I finished the degree I was working on and was saving as much money as I could during that time. Tried to find new ways of challenging myself as much as I could. Eventually I decided on doing some things that I knew would scare me. Took a year's worth of savings and just did a train hopping tour around the country for a month. A literal loop around the map, trying to make up for the fact that I'd only ever been west of the East Coast like once before, and that was Albuquerque. Not exactly the biggest symbol of the entire western 3/4 of the country. With all love to Albuquerque because, it's a great city. And throughout that entire year, finishing up a degree, reaching a level of financial stability while living on my own, and training for the New York City Marathon. When outside a couple of years of freshman or JV football, I didn't have that much of a fitness or athletic goal like that in my life. And most of all, being able to experience all of these things with family and with the friendships, old and new, that I'd built over the years through good times and downright horrible, taking all these accomplishments as an homage and an ode to them for creating somebody that was capable of doing such incredible things. All culminating into a 2022 that was the most fulfilling year of my life by a country mile. But this year I've been fighting a new question. What happens next? How do you continue the momentum that was built from such an incredible year when your bucket list gets cleaned out so quickly? I feel like I'd live my life jumping from hyperfixation to hyperfixation between various experiences, interests, challenges, and the rest. But if there's anything this year's taught me, it's the value of the long game. The satisfaction of ups and downs, motivation and lack thereof. Few valuable friendships and family instead of spreading thin and feeling misunderstood. The beauty of consistency and the type of incredible accomplishments that can be made by the sheer audacity of believing in yourself. But when all those accomplishments are realized and the after party's all over, the motivation to find new ways of setting goals just dissipates. I spent the next month and a half basically doing nothing, just relaxing without a cause and putting together the videos you see now on my channel. And even after going back into the gym, I was reverting back to that same 3-day cycle as before, just trying to do something that would keep myself content just enough to say I went to the gym and was a little bit healthier today. And hey, you're not living by that McDonald's anymore, so much for that temptation, right? The time spent away from the weight side of fitness meant that there was progress to be made at first, and then resistance begins, and here we are. This time, it was in the form of knee pain and lower back pain that I was never used to. I struggled to say knee pain because it was like this feeling that somebody was pressing down on my patella every time I would try and do anything resembling a squat. And even after getting a new mattress pad to try and fix the lower back pain, because it seemed like it was coming from how I was sleeping, it still lingered. Without the experience, it felt like all of the injuries that I should have gotten in last year's training block from not knowing what I was doing all just started to take over at once. It was like my body was just falling apart after holding it for as long as it could. And something about it just tore me down. Here I was attempting and finishing something I thought was impossible for me to do as a way to tell myself that despite my best efforts, I was capable of anything and everything that I set my mind to. So how does it feel when that comes crashing down a month into getting back into it? And typically, on most occasions, the cycle of a new hyperfixation begins from there and we start over again. But something feels different this time. I mean, after all, there were setbacks on the way to the marathon, right? First time I had shin splints. I had to learn not to jump too far ahead in the training. Had to ask for help and learn how to stretch right, get my first foam roller, know how to use that correctly, and just go through the process. First time I felt nauseous after a run and having to teach myself how to eat right, how to sleep right, and prevent any of that from ever happening again. Learning how to run with intervals and sprints and easy runs because I had to learn that the miles meant more than just getting a PR every time you put the shoes on. Setbacks in life are meant to teach you something. something. However inconvenient they are, however badly you don't want to hear it, they're meant to force you to look inward and find that thing that will propel you to the next level. And yeah, there are places that hurt right now, but what good is learning that you're capable of doing anything if your plan with that information is to do the same thing that you've been doing this whole time, or worse off, nothing at all? I know that I can run a marathon if I want to. I know that me running with a purpose can raise $4,300 for whatever cause I want to do, whether it's sticking with a veterans org, or if I find any other cause or passion that I want to get into. And I know I have the people behind me that are willing to back me up when I'm down, or even just having the tools to look up any information that I need, any questions, any help. I just have to have the courage to ask. So you know what? That's what this channel is all about. Yes, I want to play it safe now. Obviously, there were a lot of things that I learned from that training block that make me realize I need to set a good baseline. So it won't be a marathon anytime soon, but we're going to get up to that point eventually, because I'd rather play the long game and not have to do like a hip or a knee replacement at 40. But I still have a lot to learn from this sport and this journey and this type of fitness that I want to get to eventually. But I know I want to do it and continue to ask that fundamental question that created all of these accolades in 2022 or any other accomplishment that I've made in my life. Why not me? And maybe bringing the internet along for the ride can keep me disciplined, keep me honest, and as repetitive as this gets with, I feel like, a lot of running channels, maybe does build some sort of community. Am I some sort of board certified fitness expert? No, nor do I intend to be. But everybody has their starting lines. Everybody has those moments where it's like, hey, I run so I can have a pound of pasta, and it's helpful. Then transforming into loving the sport so much that those other layers of discipline get into the game a little bit, without turning into this weird, like, cringeworthy fitness influencer that tries to sell you a bunch of weird supplements. And throughout that, experiencing the messiness and the failures and hell, even the dysmorphia behind it, the self-hatred. I never thought that I was going to be here and be able to call myself a marathon runner. Hell, I still don't think that. But sometimes all it takes is just that one question. Why not me? And maybe by sharing my experience a little bit, some of you can ask yourselves, why not you? So we're going to give this a shot, maybe do a bi-weekly update or something along those lines. Get used to logging everything in a video format. If you made it this far, would love to have you subscribe to the channel. Comment down below what brought you here and what kind of goals you want to set for yourself. I'll be honest, the stuff involving the New York City Marathon course did better than I expected. So in addition to why not running, why not make a YouTube channel? And how rude of me not to introduce myself. I'm Pete. This is the face for radio that made this channel. Let's have a 2023, shall we?